Born to farm worker parent with no formal education, Wanjiru Warama uses her unique experiences of growing up on the British colonial farm in Kenya, her world travels, her work background, and as an immigrant in the United States to write biographical non-fiction books that enlightens, entertains, and inspire readers to share their own stories, whether it is in writing, recording, or verbally. She has written 5 books and 1 personal essay because Mix Warama grew up in a world devoid of books. Education is close to her heart. That's the only way she knows that will enable a person born under a cloud of disadvantages to escape the demonizing grind of poverty similar to the ones she endured in her younger years. A philanthropist, Warama has adopted Gitura Secondary School and Gitura Primary School in Kenya. She helps the 2 schools with basic supplies whenever she can. She's a lifetime member of the Friends of the San Diego Public Library, a member of the San Diego Writers Editors Guild, and a member of the Rotary Club, among others. She lives in California, United States. And on today's episode of Auto Interview, it's a pleasure to have Wanjiru Warama on the show. Welcome on the show, Wanjiru.
Thank you very much, Peter.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to have you on the show.
Yes, I think what I can start with is that before we get into the books, I would like to thank you very much for starting P English Literature, where others can come and discuss their books. And of course, I'm honored today that you invited me to come and talk about my books.
Thank you so much. That means a lot to me. I appreciate that. So, Wanjiru, could you tell us about your book? I want to first say that you have interesting titles, many of which pique my interest, and its subject of discussion is what I love to engage in. Let's start with Beyond Conscious Self. That is why we travel, and it is why I write. How do you come about writing that book?
Yeah, I'll be happy to tell you. And that book, Beyond Conscious Self, is my smallest book I've written so far. And I think, I have it here. I will show it to you. I think, can you see the title?
Yeah, I can see.
Yes, so the Beyond Conscious Self. That's a small book. It has 2 stories. And why I wrote this book is because I had already written 3 books. And when I was writing those books and publishing them, I always have somebody ask me, how did you become a writer? Or what inspired you to start writing? So I can say that I wrote Beyond Conscious Self to explain how I got into writing. So as I said, there are 2 stories in the book. And what happened is that I belong, like you read in the bio, I belong to Friends of the Library. My group back in 2012, they elected me to be the president of our chapter of the Friends of the Library. And these are people who volunteer to work at the library or donate money or books or even advocate for the library so that libraries can give this to their patrons. So when my chapter elected me, a month in, we organized a fundraiser. In that fundraiser, we sold about 100 to 150 tickets. And we solicited area businesses. And we got money, donations, or things to sell in our silent auction. And we even had a live band to come and play at our fundraiser. Unfortunately, the one thing we could not get a keynote speaker. 1 week before the event, my members said, okay, you are the president. So give a short speech. They did not tell me what to talk about. And I don't know whether I told you before you opened that I kind of stay under the radar. So I was very nervous about going to talk to such a group. I had never talked to such a crowd. Now, the eve of the event was on a Friday. Actually, it was on September 28th, 2012. That Thursday, I had worried myself to a wreck. By 8 p.m., I didn't know what I was going to talk about the following day. And for whatever reason, I surrendered, and a peacefulness came, washed through me. And my mind cleared. And I said, you know what? These are people who have bought all these tickets. And it means they love the library. And here I am, like you said in the bio, I was born and raised on a colonial farm, and books have changed my life. What is a better topic to talk about besides telling them how books had changed my life? And like that, I got the title of my speech. I said I'm going to tell them about my love affair with books. I went to my desk, opened my laptop, and typed that heading. By 11 o'clock, I had about 5-page document, double-spaced, a good speech, ready to go. The following day, I read my speech. And when we were mingling later on, one person came and congratulated me. Actually, a lot of people congratulated me. And this person told me, you could hear a pin drop in between the claps. Of course, it was very successful. The following day, when I woke up first in the morning, it's like I had a house full of people. My brain was jostling with stories. It was like, I can give an example of a house full of children, and every child wanting to tell me their story. And if I didn't listen, they screamed. I worried because I thought I had gone mad. I don't know what had happened at night, but I worried very, very much. And so I kept quiet. I didn't tell anybody. And then the second story, around that time, I was very, very busy. And a month after that event, I had to take a vacation. I took 2 weeks off. I got on a plane. I went to Venice. I boarded on a cruise ship. And we were stopping at different countries. One of the places we stopped was Santorini, Greece. And anybody who has ever been to Santorini, they know at ocean level, you see the town up there. You have to raise your eyes to see the town. And to get there, one can only take a cable car overhead or ride on a mule, they call them donkeys, or walk. I was very adventurous. And of course, I was younger, not the way I am now. I decided to walk. And about 2/3 in, I felt I could not continue. And I was all alone. Nobody told me. I was the only person walking that day. And I almost gave up and I worried. I said, I came all the way to die in a foreign country. And I worried. Again, I didn't know what to do. And that time I didn't surrender. I called for help. I called to do this or do that. And then somehow I was forced to surrender. And this may sound a hokey pokey, but it's like something took over my body. So in those two stories, in Beyond Conscious Self, and that's why I came up with that name, I was in a jam and I didn't know how to get out of it. And something came and gave me a solution and everything became okay. So when somebody asks me how did you start writing? I don't say because they won't believe me. I believe I was chosen to write the stories I write, because if I don't write the stories I write, nobody would write them. Nobody cares about peasants or people like those. So I was chosen to write the stories by whatever powers we human beings don't understand. That's the long story about that.
Yeah, that's great. I love the sound of it. And that's such an amazing story and inspiration concerning your book. Now, next, you have two titles that got me curious about the content They are Unexpected America and Entangled in America, which I think is a duology, right? Would you like to tell us how this duology came about as well?
Yes, those two books are my writing children.
Oh,
Yeah, books are like children. And
oh,
you can see, yeah, the first one, this is the first one.
Unexpected America.
Yes, and this is Entangled.
Yeah, show that one very well, Entangled, so we can see. Entangled in America. I think the Zoom
Yes,
background is making it not to be very obvious enough.
it's
Yeah,
just
okay.
glorious. Entangled in America. But those two books, yes. So Unexpected in America was the first book. And
Oh,
then the sequel, Entangled in America. And it so happened that when I came to America in 1984.
wow.
I was coming to America to finish my last year in college. I was adventurous. I didn't want to finish it in Kenya. I wanted to come to, well, actually, I wanted to go to any country. It happened. I was accepted in one of the universities here.
Wow.
So when I came, I finished my year. At graduation, I ran out of money. So I graduated. I could not feed myself.
Oh,
And I, let alone buy a ticket to back to Kenya.
wow.
So I got stuck in California. Meanwhile, of course, my people worried. What happened? I'm not from a rich family. They couldn't just buy me a ticket and send me home.
Mm.
So 1 year led to another. And years piled up. And of course, they never knew. They just thought I ran away. But it's because, and I could not tell them in my letters what the situation was, because they would never have believed me. So that's how Unexpected America came in. I realized when the writing bug bit me during the Friends of the Library fundraiser, I thought, you know what? Let me go and find out why all these stories bubbled in my head. There has to be a reason. And then I tried to find out how I could investigate about writing. I didn't think there was much to it because, I mean, if I had written those 20-page papers in college, I thought writing was not much to it. But so after about a month, I joined a writers group. I was overwhelmed how writing was so different from what I thought. And this group, people are reading whatever they wrote, they come and write in front of the book and they got feedback or critiqued. Well, of course, I thought, you know what, I'm just going to stay here and observe. But meantime, I'm going to just write headings for topics that come to mind. And I just wrote chapters or just papers, and I just kept them. In 6 months, I saw a theme taking shape. It was all about my life in America. How I came, how devastated I was when I came here, the loneliness and the lack of money and the culture shock. The cultural shock was so big that it's like I started my life all over again. Those were stories I was writing without even being conscious. So I decided, you know what, maybe I can write a book and tell my family in the book why, because I can be very frank, why I stayed in America. And that's how the book started. But by the year end, I had written so much that it morphed into those two books.
I really love the sound of your book. Sounds pretty much interesting to me. Now, I also want to ask you, following your interesting themes of titles, I'm curious to know how you handle negative feedbacks and criticism from readers who might want to disagree with your opinion and claims. How do you react to negative criticism of your books if you've ever had one in time past?
I think the one thing, I've been fortunate, although I can mention that there has been maybe somebody who mentioned, how are you able to write? And English is your second language. Or even when I started, it was like my third language. And but that one it's something that has been ongoing, and I take it in stride. Yeah, I don't mind about that. But I've been fortunate in that the stories I write, as I mentioned, are biographical. I write nonfiction. And these stories, I don't write the stories. Nobody is going to write them. So there is no reader who can come forward and say, critique my stories, because how would they write them? No, they wouldn't write them. Maybe they can critique the way I have presented them. But other than that, I haven't had that pushback about my writing.
Wow, that's amazing to know. And I'm happy to know how you react to criticism, and your response to this is quite great. Then,
I have a thin skin like every writer.
then Wanjiru, you also have another book titled Years of Shame, which I found very pulling by the title. Now, without giving too much information away, could you tell us about the making of Years of Shame?
The book Years of Shame was a very painful book for me to write. And I can show the book here.
Mm.
Can you see the Years
I
of
can
Shame?
see it. Yeah, Years of Shame.
Yes. It was very painful for me to write. It's about marginalization of women from infancy to old age. There are three stories. One is about an infant who came out a girl instead of a boy. You know how some parents can be, some parents, especially in Africa, I know they want a boy. So this girl was unfortunate, she became a girl. And then the other story is about a teenager. And her name is Jana. And the other story is about another woman. But the main story is about Jana, the 14-year-old teenager. Jana's tribe traditional practice was that boys and girls went through rites of passage, which we call circumcision.
Mm.
But along the way, through evolution, the tribe stopped subjecting their girls to such an arduous practice, which we now call female genital mutilation.
Mm.
Yes, and that is against the law in Kenya. But somehow, there is always somebody under the radar who subjects that to their daughters. So the Jana tells her story, and pre the mutilation and post the mutilation. And she dwells mainly on the psychological and shame that she had to live with for years and years. But finally, she found something that she could address her situation with, and that made a bit of a difference in her quality of life. So it's a very, very sad story, but it's a first account of a victim telling, even before it happened to her.
Well, I can even see that it's a sad story, even from your description. And the mention of the genital mutilation. I've heard about that so many times. So that sounds like something that will be very emotional and quite intriguing to read.
Yes, it's a very good book for people who teach sociology. And of course, something like that, because I see the books that are written on it, they are written about somebody. But this is Jana telling her story and how it affected. And normally people, I think, talk mainly about the physical part. but Jana deals with the psychological, which is even worse. Yes.
Yeah, that's it. That's great. I'm also curious to know if you experienced any challenges while writing your book. If there is any, could you share with us what challenge it is and how you ultimately overcame it?
Mm, I think writing is work in progress. When I started writing, I thought all I'm going to do is the craft, the writing. Before I realized there are three aspects of writing. There is the craft, which is the writing part, and that's the part I love to do. Then there is the art. Writing is an art form, the storytelling part. Yeah, so those two I had to cultivate, but yeah, let me go to the third one, the business part. I never thought about the business part.
Wow.
Yes, so the business part where you have to really know how to get that book to the public, whether it's the cover, whether it's the formatting, whether it's the publicity, the promotion, the marketing, all the marketing. Every writer I know writes about the marketing. So that the first two, the craft and the art, the storytelling, those ones I take them in stride because I know I can read books, I can go to seminars, I can join a Facebook group where I can ask a question.
Absolutely.
Yes. So, and of course, it's persistence. And the more you write, the better one gets.
Absolutely.
Yes, but the business, that's my challenge. That one, I haven't overcome that. Yeah, it's a work in progress. And that's why a forum like yours is very helpful to writers.
Absolutely. That's so great to know. That's so great to know. Now, Wanjiru, I also see that you have an interesting title on the theme of religion. As a philosopher myself, I've always loved to explore the theme of religion over and over again. Now, would you love to tell us a bit about the making of new beginnings? Why religion never appealed to me until?
Yes, that's a very interesting, it's a personal essay. And actually, yeah, it has circulated quite a bit because the way it came about last year in March, I was invited to speak about how I'll back off a little. I belong to Unitarian Universalist Fellowship. So last year they invited me to talk about how I joined them about 4 years ago and what pulled me to them. So to do that, I had to go back to Kenya.
Wow.
To show them how my people worshipped. And I told them this story. Of course, they didn't know I lived on a colonial farm in a village. So in my village, up to 8 years, I knew about my tribe's creation story. By the way, I'm from the Gikuyu tribe, or Kikuyu in Kiswahili. So my Kikuyu tribe had a creation story. The guy or God created the first man on Mount Kenya. And the first man was known as Gikuyu. And the tribe is named after the Gikuyu, that first man. So up to 8 years old, I knew that's where my people came. They were our primordial parents. And that's why we were called Kikuyus. And then Christianity swept through the village. And of course, it's a long story because it was during the war. You was better off if they were Christian. So, and as a colony, yes, you had everything traditional or that pertained to the natives was suppressed. So Christians swept through our village. It devastated a lot of families. By the time it reached my homestead. My mother got converted to Christianity, and my father remained a traditionalist.
Wow.
And that brought a friction in my family. And for the first time, I had never seen my parents quarrel.
Wow.
But for the first time, my parents fought over that.
Wow.
And fought on the yard, in the courtyard, when
Wow.
we at 8 o'clock and even 8 years, and even my younger siblings, we watched them. And I said, if my parents can fight because of Christianity, I never want to hear anything about Christianity. And it's terrible, the things children hear when they are little. It affects them for life. So I just went through the motions with Christianity. Years and years and years.
Wow, that's an amazing one actually, because I love that too. And I myself, I've always loved talking about religion, how we all came to pick up religion out of that. So Wanjiru, apart from the books we've mentioned so far, do you have any other works you've authored or currently working on?
Yeah, yes, I am almost working. I work too hard for my books. Anyhow, the books we have talked about, they all straddle America and Kenya. Even if they are based in United States, there is always a part of Kenya there, except the Beyond Conscious Self that straddles America and Greece. But the books, now I've decided to go back where it all started, on that colonial farm. And I'm writing a series known as the Colonized series. I don't know how many books they are going to be, but it starts from 1884, when the European powers met in Berlin, Germany, and chopped up Africa among themselves. And Kenya went to the British. And then the final book will reach 1984, when I came to America.
Oh.
And that's 100 years, yes.
Wow, that's beautiful. That's quite amazing.
And I hope you are going to invite me and come and present my series in future.
That's amazing to know. So, Wanjiru, could you tell us where interested viewers, in case we have people watching this interview and they'd love to get a copy of any of our books, on what platform are they available on for purchase?
Yes, my books are in several places, but the main home is the Amazon. Somebody can go through my website, wanjiruwarama.com, or even my Facebook page, or just go directly to the to Amazon and write my name. And one can read samples. The 4 books are in print, ebook, and audiobook. So somebody can just click and listen to the samples or read the samples.
That's great. And I've left a link in the description part of this interview where viewers can get a copy of Wanjiru's book. Thank you so much, Wanjiru, for accepting the invitation to be featured on P English Literature. It's a pleasure having you on the show.
It's an honor to be here. Thank you, Peter.
Yeah, you're welcome.